Cool. Okay, on to the meat of it today then. Let's try to do a contributing to Daft walkthrough. So hopefully it's a good resource for folks who want to figure out like how to, start contributing to Daft and what the Daft code base looks like. So this will be, I will kind of like wing it on the fly. So we'll see how well this goes. But basically we have a whole bunch of issues. If you go to the Daft README and look for contributing, we have a link to our good first issues, which if you come here, this is actually courtesy of Colin. Colin's been pulling out a lot of our issues and making them into these good first issues to make them very easily accessible. For example, dot arctan2, right? These are all kind of like scalar operations that you can run on your columns. And these are extremely easy to start with and get familiar with the Daft code base. So let's take a look at an example today. So basically the end result is what we want to be able to run a .string.substring on a Daft column. And then this expression will take in start and then how long you want the string to run for, right? So you can think of like if you have a string, it has length, say n, and you want like the middle, you want like the two characters starting from like the first character, right? So you'll do substring, start equals 1, length equals 2. And that will give you the substring of every string in that column. And the way you implement that is first you have to implement an expression, and then you have to implement the corresponding method on our series. And that's how you would do it. So let me go ahead and share my entire screen so that I can hop into my VS Code as well. Okay, so first I'm going to go into my Daft repository. So make sure you clone Daft, right? I'm going to check out main, create a new branch, substring. And this is going to be a very imperfect implementation of substring just to get us all familiarized with Daft. And I'm going to make use of a lot of copy pasta from GitHub to make this work. So yeah, first of all, what do we want to do here? We want to activate my virtual environment, .benv, then activate, right? And then what we want to happen is we want to be able to do something like Daft df equals, let's create a little data frame that has a bunch of strings, ABC, EF, like that, right? And now if we look at the data frame looks like this. And what we want in the end is we want it to be able to do df equals data frame dot with a new column called substring column, right? And then we want it to do df foo dot string dot substring. We want to say for each of these elements, we just want like the middle element, right? B, E, and H. And so what that would look like, we wanted to do substring start from the first index and grab length equals 1, right? This is the end result we want. And right now, obviously, it's gonna scream at you and say, hey, like there is no attribute substring because we haven't implemented it yet. Yeah, so let's go ahead and try implementing it and try to get this to work, which I think will be fun. I don't know how much we'll get through today, but we'll see. So first things first, what we have to do in order to get it to work is let's look for this expression string namespace object, right? Where is that? So you'll see that on the expression object, we have the string namespace, and this expression string namespace has a whole bunch of different methods: contains, match, ends with, starts with, and the way you use it is you do something like this. So let's do starts with column, and then if you do string dot starts with, let's do the letter A, right? And now if we go ahead and run the data frame, we'll see that this one says this string starts with A, true, right? This one does, these two don't start with A. But that's how the expression kind of namespaces work. And now we want to create kind of this new namespace that's not starts with, but we want substring, right? And so that's pretty simple. All we got to do is add a new one here, just add it up here, def substring self, and the arguments we want are where the index starts from, start, and then length, right? And these are integer and integer. Length can default to none, I think. And then this returns another expression. Okay, so now that we have this, that's pretty simple. And then all we got to do is write some boilerplate code, and this will kind of forward the call into Rust, right? So we'll do expression to expression start, and then we'll do Yeah, actually, how about let's just start with no length first, then make it easier. So we're just going to do start string from a certain point all the way to the end of the string. And then here we can forward the call to Rust. So this is actually going to make a Rust call. If you click on this UTF match, it actually calls out to this daft.py, which is kind of like an interface on top of our Rust expression. So if you go to Python daft DSL, you'll see that we have the corresponding Rust functions here. And these Rust functions are actually defined on this like Py expression object. And this Py expression object is a self._expression. So all we're doing here is we're just, in this line of code, just kind of forwarding the call down into Rust, right? Very simply doing that. So we're going to create a new Rust call called substring. And then this will take in start expression, that. And that should be good. And all we have to do now is define here a corresponding call to substring. So UTF-8. Actually, let's call it UTF-8 substring to be consistent with the styling here. So we'll call it UTF-8 substring. We'll go ahead and change the call out to it in Python to UTF-8 substring. And this is, we'll call it start. And then here's a nifty Rust trick. We'll do to do. We will want to implement this, right? All right, now let's go ahead and build. So we'll do make build, which will build the current version of my code. And this to do will basically panic. So the moment we call this, it's going to panic and say, hey, we want to implement this. Hopefully, we'll see. Okay. Yeah, so sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
In the Python method for substring, you convert the start to an expression. I guess what's the benefit of doing that?
So the reason we need to do that is because we want to account for the case where we're able to do not just passing in, a starts with and then literal. We also want to be able to handle the case where you can pass in a column, right? And so in that case, it would be like dfu string starts with some column in the data frame, and then we can do a per row comparison instead of right here. For example, in this substring, we pass in these scalar values, right? And these scalar values will kind of be broadcasted almost onto the data frame. But if you wanted to pass in a column instead, then we have to convert it to an expression so that then Daft can resolve it into one of the columns at runtime. That's a great question, great clarifying question.
Yeah, I guess the expression really makes it easy to like do computations, not only just using scalar arguments, but also other columns as arguments.
Correct. So actually, if we wanted to just simplify the work that we're doing here, we could just pass in, I think, just start. That might be a good idea. And just pass in start as a non-expression so that we don't have that case for now. And that might make this example that we're running through a bit easier. So we're gonna, for the call here, UTF-8 substring, we need to also create one here, UTF-8 substring. And then this takes in one argument, which is start, and we'll not take in a Py expression for now, we'll just do integer to make things easy. And so this is the interface to our Rust function, which is in here. And then this will be start, and this will be, say, I64, right? Since we are just making things easy for now.
Oh, I guess one other question is, how does this magical Python to Rust work?
Yes, so this magical Python to Rust is working through what library we call Py03. It's a pretty nice binding library that allows you to bind Rust code to Python. And here, for example, all we did was we annotated all of our Rust code with this Py methods little Py03 wrapper, and then it translates. So literally in Python, we now have a Py expression object with all of these methods. And then Py03 kind of handles the translation of, okay, there's a UTF-8 substring method. This Rust I64 is automatically mapped to a Python integer. And so Py03 handles the conversion back and forth between the Rust types and the Python types and all the kind of serialization and deserialization necessary to make that happen. Yep. All right, now that we are built, I believe, yes, we are now built. Let's go ahead and try it out and see what happens. So I'm gonna rerun the code and create the data frame again. Here is the data frame. And now we'll see that we do have this new method, right? If you do like data frame foo.string.substring, it should no longer throw me an error, but it will panic. right? It's going to say we will want to implement this. So, but it no longer will say that, hey, this method doesn't exist on like string accessor, right? Because we've now correctly routed it down to the Rust code. It's just that the Rust code itself isn't implemented yet. And from here on out, it's actually pretty simple because all we got to do is it's a bunch of copy pasta. Let's just take inspiration from one of these, right? So let's just take this ends with, and we'll copy this. Now we need to route it basically all the way down to the actual expression itself. So let's change this to substring. We'll go to UTF-8. We'll add a new file here called substring.rs. We'll just copy everything that was in ends with. Bam. Bring it into substring.rs as a good base template. And then we also have to add this new substring.rs file into the module. So do mod substring. Cool. Okay, now that we've done that, now we have to implement the actual expression itself, because what we're doing is we are routing this substring method to call this new substring method inside of our substring.rs. And we are then going to call it on just these two arguments, right? Start and then self, which is an expression. So what's it throwing here? It's private, so we need to make this public, I believe. Use substring. Use substring. Whoops. UTF-8 expression. Oh, I see. Okay, so it looks like we have a bunch more stuff on here that we need to implement. Okay, so yeah, looks like we have to implement also UTF-8 expression. On UTF-8 expression, there's a bunch of enums. So let's implement a new one called substring. I think we need a new one called substring, and here we need to map. Whenever we see the substring expression, we want to map it to an evaluator, right? So we don't have this yet, but this is something that we'll have to implement, the substring evaluator, and that will be imported from the substring.rs. Just copy pasta like everything else. Substring evaluator. This is currently missing. It's going to throw me an error, but yeah, we'll implement it later. Okay. Did we handle all the other cases? Oh, very good.
We also need the constructor to construct the
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll implement a new function called substring that takes in the data that we want to run a substring on. That's going to be an expression ref, and start, which is right now we simplified it, so it's an I64, returns a new expression ref, right? Returns a new expression. And under the hood, this just returns a function, UTF-8 expression. Let's use our new substring expression. And the inputs to this expression is just going to be data and then start. This has to be expressions. So, oh, that's a little complicated then. We might want to just make it an expression ref.
You can put the start in the
substring?
Yeah, that's what we do for
Okay.
other.
So we'll put it in here as an I64.
Yeah.
We should have done usize, but that's okay. Substring start. Cool. And then we'll get rid of this. So basically, this substring expression now takes as input one element, which is the data, and then it knows where to start doing the substring from, right? And so all the information is kind of contained now within this expression function. Cool. Now that we have this, we can it will correctly forward the call from here. So when we call from Python, we call .str.substring. It's going to call this function, and now it's going to create the actual expression using this substring function that we just defined and return that expression. And all that expression is this function expression, we call it in Daft, with a single input, that's the data to run on, and then also the parameters of the substring operation, right, which is the start parameter. And now that we have all of this, we need to then go ahead and define this substring evaluator, because at evaluation time, that's what we're going to look for in order to run the actual substring operation. And all we have to do here, we copied all this code from the ends-with side of things. So we just got to create a substring evaluator. We'll implement this function evaluator for our substring evaluator. We'll give it a name, substring, it's fine. Okay, so toField resolves the inputs to a new field, right? So that's going to be when we do run this substring operation, like tfoo str substring, what new field is it returning? What's the name of the field, and then what is the type of the field, right? In this case, it returns a new field with the same name and same type. It's going to be a string type, because when we return a new substring, it's, by definition, a string. So actually, a better one to copy it then would be the left, right? Because if you do this, then the types are all correct. So let's go ahead and do that. we'll do, instead of left evaluator, we'll do substring evaluator. And then we'll implement function evaluator, call this substring. And now toField should already do what we want. It's going to be not in cars anymore. Delete this. So because we did in our substring method, we said that this function expression only takes in one input. We can do a bunch of validations here. We can say, okay, we expected only one input argument, and we have a match statement that will say, okay, we only get one input argument. That's the data, right, that we're going to run substring on. And then we don't need to match this anymore. Let's see, move. I'll just go ahead and code this from scratch. It's probably easier. So we'll go ahead and match the case where we only have one input, right? And now we are going to return a new field where the name of the field is going to be the same as the data field. Oh, so we need to do data.toField schema. So it's going to be first resolve the data against the given schema, right? This gives us a data field. And then next, we'll return a new field with name equals to the data field name. And then with type equals to data type UTF-8, because substring operations returns a new field that's UTF-8 type. So I think that's all we need, actually. This is like pretty good. Oh, do we need to validate that? Yes, we do. Okay, so we also need to make sure that the data that we're getting in this case is a this data field has to be a string field, right? Because substring operations and non-string fields don't make sense. So let's go ahead and do that. If data field dot dtype equal to data type UTF-8, then we want to return an error. After type error format, X substring can only be run on string, string, something like that, right? That should do it. Okay, I think this works. We shall see. And then for evaluate, so okay, so the difference between toField and evaluate is that toField will run when we whenever we create the expression and resolve the expression against a data frame. But when we actually run the data frame, when we call .collect or we call write to parquet, any execution operations, then it will call evaluate, right? So I'm going to say to do implement evaluation code so that we can see that difference. Now I'm going to go ahead and build my code, and we should have our first end-to-end example without the actual running of the substring operation, but all of the expression code I think should work already. And give us what we expect, and we can see that happening. All right, we'll let this run. Oh, bunch of compilation issues. Let's see, where's this? Substring.
Whoops. You put the underscore because it accepts an argument.
Yes, we added that argument later on. This is an exercise of how fast can you implement a new expression. How deep are we in right now? This is 30 minutes.
I think you're almost there.
Yeah, we're almost there. It's very close. We should have a KPI, how fast can we make this? Can we make this like a 15-minute exercise?
It is actually a developer experience KPI.
Exactly.
And I think this is quite fast. Should be proud. This is very fast.
No, there's a whole bunch of other ideas we have to make it even faster. Like there's a lot of glue code you have to write. Like the whole routing from Python to Rust is actually fairly painful. But there's a lot of things you can do with like Rust macros and stuff to make it much easier for a developer. It's like copy paste all the Rust macros. Should be a lot easier, especially for simple cases like this substring case, right? But it does require a little bit more work in terms of building those macros. Okay, all right, this is exciting. Let's try it. So import Daft. Now we are going to we should be able to run the substring operation without actually running the data frame. So what that means is that now we can do this substring column, bam. Okay, so we actually created the expression, right? So the expression looks like this, right? It's going to be running the substring operation on column foo. So the creation of the expression worked. You'll also see that the data frame is well typed. It actually did create a new column. It has type UTF-8, right? And it's gonna this column is the transformation that happened to create this column was running substring on column foo. Everything was good. The only problem is now if you actually run this code, it's going to panic, right? Because we actually haven't implemented the actual running of the substring operation. This is all kind of symbolic for now. So yeah, if you run this, it's going to say to do implement evaluation code. And that's because where it's erroring out is right here, where we have a little to do. So yeah, so we're like very, very close. All we need to do now is implement the code that takes in a single input, which is going to be the data. And then we need to run the substring operation and then return the output, which is going to be the sliced data, right? And so that should be pretty simple. I'm actually, let's see. Yeah, so that should be pretty simple. Let's do a match on the inputs. We expect only one input, right? The data. And then all we need to do is run a UTF-8 substring on the data. And we'll pass in, we also need to grab the expression. We need to grab our start index from the expression. So let's go ahead and do that. That's a little trickier, but
yeah, we need to match on that. Yeah.
Oh no, that's actually pretty tricky.
That's the thing about Rust. It's like because this is a generic function that accepts a function expression, right? You need to figure out like because you know that the function expression is a substring expression.
Correct.
And because it's Rust, you have to do the match.
Yeah, it's very annoying. And so we have to match it on function expression. We know that it's a function expression, right? And then furthermore, we also know that it's a UTF-8. How does this one work again? UTF-8 like that? No, can't be. UTF-8.
I think you can find a copy pasta example somewhere.
It's okay. We're almost there.
Okay.
UTF-8. Yeah, so we know it's a UTF-8 function expression. And this takes in an UTF-8 expression substring, right? UTF-8 expression substring. And then now we finally have access to our start value. Here we go. Okay. And all we want to do is we want to return start so that we have access to it downstream. Okay, here we go. Let's start equals this. Bam. Man, that was a lot of boilerplate. Okay, so now we have the start where we should start from. And so we can pass it into our function call into UTF-8 substring, which we haven't implemented yet. And now, yeah, so any other input should be returning an error because we should expect only one input. And now, actually, to simplify things, what do y'all think of like just implementing the functionality right here? Should we just do that? Or should we go through the whole shebang of creating this thing? That's a lot of boilerplate. Let's just do it. You know what? We're so close. Might as well just do it. Series UTF-8 here. Okay, here's where all the UTF-8 operations are defined on our series, right? So we just need to create a new one, which we're calling UTF-8 substring. This bad boy here will take in as input the data, run the substring operation using the start parameter, then return a new series that's of type UTF-8 with the substringed data. So here we go. We can just copy the left one. Where's left? Is there left? UTF-8. Aha, here we go. It's kind of complicated though. Why don't we take this one, capitalize? So we'll copy the signature, UTF-8, call it UTF-8 substring. And then we'll give it an input start I64, right? Where do we start grabbing a substring from? And all we're doing here is we're just forwarding the call to the underlying array of the UTF of the series. And there's a nice little helper here already for you to do it. This is with UTF-8 array helper. And so that should make it a lot easier. And now what this with UTF-8 array helper will do is it will convert the series into a UTF-8 array like that. And all we're doing is we are going to call array.UTF-8 substring and give it a start as well to series. And this isn't implemented. So we need to go ahead and implement substring on data array UTF-8 type, right? See, that's not implemented. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and find where this is implemented to just copy it as well.
This should be the final level of.
This is the final level. We've gone from expression down to running on the series, and now we're going from running on the series down to the running on the array. And this is the final level, the final boss. Okay, So we'll copy one of these, do substring, it takes in start, which is in 64, returns a new UTF-8 array, but not a Boolean one. Okay. Now, how do we actually run a substring operation? That's the fun part. So let's try and see if there's anything we can copy past it here to help us. Replace length. No, that wouldn't be good. Lower might be. Yeah. Okay. Unary broadcasted up. That sounds like what we want, right? Because it's a unary operation. It runs just on one input, which is the data array, and then it's just going to run a substring operation on every single element of that array. Here we go. This should do the trick. So we'll run a unary broadcasted up on every value of the array. This value is just going to be a simple string, a Rust string. And all we got to do now, let's see Rust come through. Do you have a substring operation or a slice? Slice, no slice.
You can do chars. There's no, I don't think there's a dedicated substring function, but you can get the chars and then
or
iter. Do it there.
I guess chars is the iter. And then you do a okay, so it is an iterator now. And all we gotta do is grab well, take is gonna take a certain number, but we want to like skip until a certain, we want to skip to the start and then take the rest, right?
Yeah.
So is there skip, there we go. All right, so we'll skip a start number of characters and then we'll go ahead and collect the rest. I think that should work. Expected U size. So we should have started with U size instead of I64. That was a mistake, but we'll just do this for now to get it to compile. Okay, I think that worked. Let's try it. It's pretty exciting. If this works, we need to try and get the time down from, what was that? That was like 45 minutes. Unacceptable, you know, or like half an hour to 45 minutes. Oh no, what happened here? Okay, expected. Okay. It's just a typing issue here. So we need to put this as okay, right? Because we expect a result. In Rust, when you return a result, you need to return an okay value. All right. We also should improve our compile times. And I need to figure out what's going on here. I don't know why it keeps blocking on this file lock. What is happening?
I don't know. Mine's always pretty fast.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I'm just saying it could be better, you know? Yeah, we also need to improve all the transitive like compilations. All right, expected I64, blah blah blah. Here we go. Why is it taking in
dereference?
Just deref. Oh, here. Are there any other red portions? Okay, everything else looks good. Yeah, after we clean up the expressions like development process, we should do a new updated video. Contributors expressions workflow 2.0. Yeah, it's like compiling everything, which is crazy. There's something wrong with our compilation dependency. Oh no, actually, I think this is because my VS Code is like invalidating the cache. I haven't fixed that. That's really annoying. Okay, all right, it should work now. Here we go. Import Daft. We'll create that same data frame again. It's slow on the first import, very annoying, but it is what it is. All right. And then now we'll run a substring operation, right? The length, we didn't forward the length, so that this doesn't actually make a difference. And then now we do df.collect, and bam, here we go. Substring is working. All right, fully end to end. And so yeah, all we have to do now to fully flesh out this PR, if you want to make a PR, what we have to do is we have to handle a few cases, right? So we have to handle probably this case where we pass in the length. Right now, our substring only takes in the start, and so it just goes from the start all the way to the end of the string. So it always goes like that. And so we want to be able to say, hey, only grab like 1 or 2 strings from the substring. And then we might also want to pass in substring and allow it to take in a column as input, right? So let's say we had a data frame instead that looked like this, bar 1, 2, 3. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to do a substring starting from index 1, starting from index 2, starting from index 3 for each of these rows. And then what we need to do instead is we need to allow substring to also take in not just the integer value here, but like, you know, df bar, something like that. And so to do this is what we were looking at before, but we need to then kind of almost like promote the start parameter into an expression instead of just a simple scalar value, like our I64s that we had in here, right? So instead of just passing in an integer, we need to pass in an expression, and we kind of do that here with all these helpers of like expression to expression. Yeah, but otherwise, like that was it. That was the end-to-end implementation of something like substring. Hopefully that will help with any new contributors who are trying to contribute to Daft for the first time.
Yeah, in less than an hour.
In less than an hour, record time. All right.